Wednesday, February 22nd, 2023. Happy Ash Wednesday. As you can see, the ashes on my forehead. So let's jump into this. Brandon Gentile here. We have the market update for today, and we have a similar story as yesterday. Things getting beat up a little bit. Bitcoin getting beat up a little bit, as we can see right here. Let's check the Bitcoin chart out. About 23,500, so down a percent or two. As this is kind of the global liquidity indicator, along with gold and silver as well. So we're kind of going backwards here today a little bit, but these are getting hit a little bit. Gold and silver have been getting hit a bit. Bitcoin's actually been kind of decoupling and moving upward. So some interesting things going on here. Crude oil, as we always say, the DXY, the dollar relative strength, the 10-year yield, and the oil are really those big indicators of what's actually happening in where things are going in the world. So we need to keep the eye on those three, that trifecta there. And then the global liquidity indicators are gold, silver, and Bitcoin at the end of the day. So we have the FOMC meeting minutes here at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today. So that'll be something to keep an eye on. However, the thing I want to really kind of touch on here today is just some of the info from what's going on and what Bullard and some of the Fed heads have been saying. And they themselves have been saying that the central bank will most likely continue to raise rates and cool the economy. Money markets have been pricing in at least 3 more 25 basis point hikes throughout the rest of this year, probably the next 3 most likely. And they see that stopping and peaking out around 5.5%, that terminal rate. So really, really fascinating things going on here at the end of the day, but we have to keep our eye on the ball. We have to keep our eye on the 10-year yield and what's going on there. And at the end of the day, like we said, it's been really flying upward, the yield here. So we have to be very careful. And because, again, rates we haven't seen in a few months, we have to continue to be careful. Do not shoot for the moon. Hedge yourself. Put in your stop losses. If you're trading stocks, again, we don't really do that here. We want to kind of dummy proof what we're doing. And I always find when you're getting the stocks and doing stuff like that, and you start having to sell puts to jump in, what I would like to do, and then buying calls to make income and premium on those things. And then when you own the stock, you can buy some puts as well to kind of safeguard and kind of cushion yourself and kind of straddle both sides. That's already getting complicated, right? I'm already losing half the people in that are listening to this, and that's why I want to dummy-proof things. I want gold, silver, and Bitcoin, food, storage, energy, water filtration, guns, ammo, barterability, land, and building community at the end of the day, because those are things that everyone can do. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to do these things. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to trade necessarily and just put in stop gaps and hedges and insurance on your stocks, but no one's taught to do this. And this goes back into all the other videos we make. There's a reason that we aren't taught to do these things. There's a reason we aren't taught to handle our money, to make more money, because one, teachers' unions don't know how to make money. They're just taught to churn out worker bees purposely by the government. The government makes sure that happens because, as we shown before, the General Education Board started by Rockefeller. Well, that was the point. They wanted workers, not thinkers, as he said himself. So it's up to us, God's highest form of creation, it's up to us to educate ourselves and become independent and resilient, so that way we aren't relying on government. We aren't at the mercy of the overlords at the top who have no interest in helping us at all. If they did, we wouldn't have things like the Affordable Health Care Act, Obamacare. We wouldn't have things shoved and rammed down our throats. We wouldn't have the IRS, lowest learner 10 years ago, spying and pestering citizens of the United States, being locked into our rooms, forced to take injections in our body that we don't want, and on and on and on and on. If they actually cared for you, they wouldn't do those things. They would listen to the will of the people, but that's not government's job. They don't want to listen to the people. They think they are God's gift to creation, and we have what made America different was the founding documents, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration, the Constitution, saying that the rights come from God, and the governments are there at the consent of the governed, period. Money creation is not given by the government. That's not made by the government. Money creation is by the people in the private sector. That's where the value creation comes from, goods and services. And the governments are just there to, like we said many times, again, military, when needed, protect the borders, and facilitate the rule of law in the currency trade between states and stuff like that, to make sure things are being done properly. A lot of that, again, still probably can be done by the private sector. So many people in the world, unfortunately, just think that they can't do anything in their lives themselves, and they need mom and dad to help them out, unfortunately. And that goes through all generations right now, and it's very sad, and we're all guilty of that to some degree. And that's what I'm trying to eradicate from my life. I'm trying to eradicate this dependence on other people in every way I can, and all of us are in different levels of that. But what can you do today to start taking life in your own hands and becoming accountable, becoming responsible, and independent, resilient? Because the more we can do that, the less we need the overlords, the less we have rules and regulations and onerous taxes in the theft that's going on, destroying our current living standard, and will absolutely and is continuing to destroy the future living standard for our kids. So before I go down any more rants, my soapboxes, my TED Talk, so I appreciate you coming to the TED Talk today. But we have, again, the 10-year Treasury and the bellwether of what's going on in the world at almost 4%. So we have to be on alert, be on high alert, as the Fed, they're going to have to, and this is why they're slowing rates as well. People think the great economic data, like, oh, it's great, now they're going to keep raising rates even more. That's probably why you've seen the economy hit a little bit, and risk-on assets being hit a little bit. And again, risk-on assets are generally equities. Bitcoin's still considered a risk asset, the NASDAQ, stuff like that, these kind of growth stocks, these growth companies, those are risk-on plays. So be careful there. Be very careful. We're going to continue monitoring this, obviously, long term, and they're going through this every day. We see again, stocks right now currently are just kind of idle for the moment, down big yesterday, before or after we did our video, obviously down big again. So you have to watch these days and just kind of see what's going on, or you can tune in here and talk about it at least for a few minutes each day. And the DXY is at 104. Almost 104.5, and you can see again it bumping up. When you see bond yields rising, that means bonds are selling off. People are jumping into the dollar. People are trying to find dollars all across the world to be able to service these higher yield payments, these higher yielding payments. Now, when the yield goes up, now people, it's like a variable rate. People have to start paying off in a higher rate and higher debt service. So they have to find dollars. They have to sell investments. That's where a lot of times you see equity sell off, and Bitcoin and gold and silver, like they have over the last day or so, because people are trying to find something very quickly to sell so they can get dollars to pay off their dollar-denominated debts. So hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if you have any questions on that. It is confusing, but at the end of the day, these are all band-aids on bullet holes. We have to talk about these things. It's not my favorite thing in the world to talk about this stuff, and I love getting to the core root issue of things. When you can fix the money, you start healing the rest of society. I can't stand talking about these moving goalposts, and these things are constantly shifting, and the perils of letting our system be run by one mysterious lawyer, Jerome Powell, one mysterious lawyer running the Federal Reserve, or a group of 12 people, a couple guys and gals that get to run our life for us and tell us when we can or can't transact, and what the interest rate's going to be, and when our stuff's going to be frozen out of accounts or not. That's insanity. It's absolute insanity. And again, if you don't think things can be frozen, go ask Russia. Go ask the Canadian truckers. Go ask the Dutch farmers. If you think you're better than all of them, then hey, Godspeed. At the end of the day, this will all come to a head, and this will continue to happen anywhere and everywhere. America on down. Doesn't matter who you are. You will continue to get eradicated from the system. The whole point is central banks want power and control. They want to squeeze the middle class, create two classes of people, the poor, the 99%, and the 1%, themselves and their cronies. Someone wanted me to mention crony capitalism and creditism by Richard Duncan. He kind of coined that term, creditism. And we live in this world of financialization. We've talked about it in many other videos in the past. Haven't talked about it too much recently, but that's what it is. We don't live in a free market society. We live in, at best, a creditism or a crony capitalist state. It's kind of just pseudo-communism capitalism. It's this public-private partnership where governments are in bed with all the companies, and the companies are doing the bidding. You see, that's why every commercial is woke. The ESG stuff there. That's why companies, everywhere you turn, you're like, this isn't even profitable. Like, most people don't even believe this stuff. Like, why are we pushing this stuff as companies? It can't be profitable at all. That's because the governments have come in, and this is stuff that people won't talk about much at all. But the governments come in, and they just say, hey, we're going to, like we said, the Twitter files, again, have now exposed what at least I've known for 10, 20 years minimum, because they've shown their hand. If anyone's paying attention, this is stuff that's been happening for decades, and just now it's being exposed to the average person, unfortunately, with Twitter files, stuff like that. But the government comes in and says, hey, either do this and help us push this thing along, or we'll tax you more, or we'll fine you, or we'll take you out, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter what the deal is. But this is how this public-private partnership has been created. And the government can say, hey, we're not doing anything. The government's not doing anything at all. It's the companies doing it. And there's a country in the 30s in Eastern Europe that was doing the same type of thing and creating this style of government where it was public-private partnership, what the World Economic Forum wants, and the Davos crowd, the Club of Rome, and this Malthusian attitude of, hey, if we just get the governments to get in bed with the companies can do all the bidding, and it looks like it's private companies are doing it just by their benevolence. They're just all happen to see the same thing and saying the same thing and promoting the same thing. So this is the world we live in, and we've created this bed. We're going to lie in it, and it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough a little bit, but it's unbelievable opportunity for us going forward. This is why owning Bitcoin, gold, silver, food, energy, water, ammo, firearms, security, land, and building community is going to be the only way out. I'm telling you right now, without a shadow of a doubt, in my heart of hearts, that is the only way out. The intuition, it could not be stronger. I've had this for years, for 2 decades, and it's just come to a point where we have to start waking up and smelling the coffee and understanding what's in front of us. And the more the selfish part of this, the more people that I can help get to this point where they're self-sustainable and independent and resilient, the less bad things actually end up happening, ironically. So it's on all of us. And please share this out. Please share this out, because the algorithm hates truth. The algorithm hates reality. So please share this out. People you think could benefit from this. And many of you aren't subscribed that watch the channel, so please do that as well. And I'd really appreciate that. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Your time and energy is the most important asset we have. To finite time for finite money. The only trade we can make. So the only thing I know, the two finite things are Bitcoin and time. Time and Bitcoin. They're equal trades with one another. Long term. So it's not financial advice, it's freedom advice. I appreciate you coming to my TED Talk. And please take this for what it is. The intuition, the alarm bells are going off so strongly inside of me. We're being played from every angle. And we have to start picking our heads up and realizing that the rights come from above, not from government. Money does not come from government either. It comes from you and I. It comes from value creation, goods and services, and us providing things for each other. The government is there to facilitate things. That is it. They're not there to give us anything, to create anything, or do anything for us. That is not their role. That is not their job. That's not what gives us freedom. That's not what gives us America, what we've known. We are creating a dystopia. We're not there quite yet. We're getting there. We're dang close. But the people who think they're creating a utopia are actually creating a dystopia. And they're going to be sadly mistaken. They're going to be very bummed out when they realize they are complete serfs and debt slaves of the state, and they have no life. And they are just literally cogs in a matrix, sitting there and working for their overlords. And it's seemingly a utopia, but it's anything but. I appreciate you guys and look forward to seeing you on the next one.